Frameshifts. Here's a book self-published, handmade, and guaranteed to draw you into the shifty world of an evangelistic trash collector and charismatic biochemist named Avery Crawley, who draws a theocratic cult around himself by preaching, "All things on earth shall wholly pass away as grazing aphids from the milkweed green, obsidian beetles from the dark, tin-legged lines from ever-fingering touch, or icon from belief, or firefly swim of stars from awe or hope or love. Men in their shallow grids of love, worn tracks, slick chutes and passages for getaway, insulary housings, marked lanes to swim, marked meadows to enjoy, and lawns for green. Reach out and feel the cool, degrading touch. Look in through a chink at the seething dark." So he preaches. Avery Crawley, the supreme prophet of the salvage. The salvage is a cult that uses corporate law, genetic engineering, and federal funding to become the first region to secede from a federation exhausted by wars and inept attempts to reclaim the eastern seaboard from a rising ocean. Farroll, a small town in northern Virginia, becomes the center of the salvage, with its board of faith and practice, its own currency, not unlike Berkshire's, its own mercenary army, and its own supreme prophet. It's all in the book. Here's a book, Frameshifts, in 2 volumes. A book of shifting frames of attention, shifting frames of reference, shifting genres, stories, scenes, and characters, written before there was a shift network to command us to make an evolutionary shift of consciousness toward a more enlightened society based on principles of sustainability, peace, health, and prosperity. Well, Frameshifts is really folk art. It is the kind of art made by those working below the level of historical scrutiny. But here I am still, so scrutinize. An unhinged biochemist preaching the end of the world through global warmth of greed and cooling of our attention to what most concerns us, leads believers to create an inland community away from the flooded East Coast, a kind of apocalyptic work-study program of green, better living through habitat restoration and genetic control of behavior. Here is a book of books, a collection of stories, making a novel that shifts back and forth over 2 centuries. Frameshifts is for you, a reader who enjoys being lost in a strange territory, a reader open perhaps to a path that twists through mysteries, suspense, philosophy, poetry, history, and fiction. Whether you're interested in whodunit, a lost missile launch code, the sinister results of the petty politics of town councils and school boards, genetic engineering gone awry, or a utopian reform of agriculture and society that seems almost too complete and too perfect, then Frameshifts is for you. Where does it come down? Where do we come down? When we land from our wild rides on wild weasels, submarines, and drones, where do we settle from the endless round of greed, from drop to drop, from storms and rains and droughts that will not stop? How did we get this far along? Who's shopping? Who's gorging to obese conditions, consuming till we consume each other and ourselves? Whose votes? Whose choice of weapons? terms and blindfolds, gave permission. Avery Crawley, the supreme prophet, puts it this way: in those days before the flood, men were eating and drinking and giving in marriage, and they did not know until the flood came and swept them all away. You hear that? We live in deficit times. Appetites and pride have outstripped our resources. Correction's coming. Correction and realignment. So the supreme prophet preaches. But how did it happen? As usual, the way it always happens. We were going about our business, quietly signing contracts, doing lunch, making deals, taking classes, ignoring the warnings not to lose the pieces as we tinkered. Upon our privacies depend all legacies. By minute degrees, we shaped the world with ease. In no time at all, we moved from Levittown to downtown, from Teapot Dome to Tin Balloon, from pop-top ozone hole to stopgaps, closures, Senate rules, and executive orders. The wounds gaped while Avery Crawley preached of a world where wealth still accumulates and men still decay. All things on earth shall pass away, he'd say. Of course, many should. Your wastes are curdling in the sea. They seep from aquifers and drains. They tangle fur and beaks and brains, yet you feel none of this. Your middens filled with goods unsold, your streets with sleepers in the cold. All things on earth shall pass away, and none of you will notice. Feelings and dreamings die together while you eat seed corn in warm weather. From all reports, he left the city years before the floods, taking his family back to Farol, and became a trash collector. But there was more. Some followed him. Saving and preservation of all kinds became their mission. The salvage operation grew. Rectortown, the county seat, annexed Farol, grew rich, and made Crawley supreme prophet of its board of faith and practice. Amused by the superstition that transforms politics into municipal religion, he used his title to advantage, warning of future floods far worse than those they had escaped. So, here is Frameshifts, a book for you, handmade, self-published, passed through the filter of grief and pain, which even in sleep cannot forget, but falls drop by drop upon the heart, and in our despair against our will brings wisdom to us. Perhaps this book is a kindness for you. For what wisdom can you find that is greater than kindness? However, it is no sermon, screed, tract, self-help book, or manual of arms. It is a book of stories and poems, a history, a vision, but also a story, given because the nectar of life is sweet only when shared, and because the stories that we tell each other can imprison us or free us from delusions by widening the circle of our compassion. So for you, I have selected these words, characters, and stories. It is how I imagined, discovered, and learned. What I have finished begins your discovery. What it becomes is like a touch. Each shares, but each unequally. The giver who would gain too much. The taker who gives sparingly. I mean that it is also a soul work, a work of faith, faith in readers and in reading, faith in proving and probing what one imagines, in order to realize it. Frameshifts is for you.